Punisher's plot armor is insane. Seriously, Frank Castle's thick-ass plot armor gives Batman a run for his money. This man has taken on the Avengers by himself. But I'll get to that. Of course he has plot armor, right? Frank Castle lives in this world of gods and monsters and super beings, 90% of whom seem to live in New York for some reason, and living in this shared world means he has to come across and interact with these beings and inevitably fight some of them. And Frank is just some guy. But again, he's just some guy, kind of like how Bruce Wayne is just some guy. Maybe not as ridiculous, there's no magical Tibetan monks for Frank to learn from. I'm excited to see how they use the Punisher alongside Spider-Man in the upcoming MCU movie. I think their relationship might be reminiscent of his relationship with Daredevil, but I'm sure they'll come up with something interesting. And fun fact, Punisher's first ever appearance was actually in a Spider-Man comic hired by the Jackal to take Spidey out. Anyway, some authors try to keep Punisher street level, taking out criminal gangs and cleaning up the city's dirty underbelly, and maybe taking on some of the less powerful threats like Bullseye. Some of Punisher's most famous storylines have followed this kind of vibe, and that's where I generally like him. But inevitably, someone's going to come along and want to, I don't know, send Frank to hunt Asgardian frost giants. That was a thing for a while. Or maybe turn him into the Avatar of Vengeance that made a deal with Mephisto before becoming the Herald of Galactus and turning into the Cosmic Ghost Rider who travels back in time to put down baby Thanos but ends up adopting him and raising him as a son? Okay, that one doesn't count technically, it was an alternate universe story, but boy was it fun. And it is fun. I'm not throwing shade at characters like the Punisher. There's something about the human characters like Bruce Wayne and Frank Castle that gets people behind them. Maybe because, in theory, they should be the underdogs, right? They're the regular people in these fantastical worlds. Though I should note, the Punisher has been non-human before. He's been Frankencastle, yes, that's Frankenstein's monster. He's had access to the weapons of heaven, yes, literal heaven, and even been the leader of a magical ninja cult. But just for fun, let me highlight some instances of human Frank's ridiculous plot armor. Okay, so the Punisher is accused of taking out 3 cops, right? Which he didn't do, but is reported that he did so using stolen web shooters. Spider-Man reads this and is understandably upset. Imagine if someone used your gadgets for crime. If someone stole my Ninja Creamy and used it to bludgeon someone, I'd be pretty upset. But Spidey tracks him down pretty fast and webs up his hand. He punches him clean in the face, and somehow doesn't knock him out. He says he's very angry, but not angry enough, apparently. Frank clearly has a weapon in his hand, and Spidey just angrily monologues at him. And this is what plot armor looks like a lot of the time, I think. Characters surrounding the recipient of said plot armor just lose their brain cells. Again, not an angry complaint really, just an observation. So, obviously, Frank fires the weapon, breaks free, Spidey toys with him for a bit. The book does make it clear how outclassed Frank is physically. He punches Spider-Man in the face and it does nothing. But again, Spidey keeps hitting the guy and doesn't knock him out, or even web him up. And as he finally goes to do so, the prone Punisher has time to turn around, pull out a grenade, and throw it at the man with danger sense, who doesn't react in time. He gets knocked on his butt, Frank delivers a badass line, kicks him in the face, and steals his web shooters for extra measure. I will confess, I grew up on Spider-Man comics, and maybe that makes me overly critical here. I'll stop the rambling there. I know I mentioned his fight with the Avengers. That's actually from this same series called Punisher Warzone. After getting his butt handed to him, Spider-Man goes to the Avengers and says, "Listen, we need to bring this guy down." Iron Man thinks that's beneath them, but Cap actually backs Spidey up. And we have this interesting moment where half the people in this room, when they come to that decision, are themselves people who have taken lives. Seriously, Black Widow, the assassin? Wolverine? But my favorite part might be the end of this chapter where Wolverine finds Frank, tracks him down, and says, "Listen man, you push too hard, the Avengers are coming," and gives him time to escape. The character dynamics are pretty fun when this series has time to breathe.